Now, with any further ado, time to get in this new Tyler the Creator album.
Igorrr.
No, the latest Igorrr album, Spirituality in Distortion. Igorrr, aka Jotir Suri?
Yup. Gautier.
Gautier?
I don't fucking know how to do anything in French.
I can't pronounce English, let alone a ton of vowels, because I can't read super well.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce French.
Gautier Suri is a French musician who is mostly known for combining a bunch of conflicting genres and having them mesh well together beautifully. Metals like black metal.
I'd say more goth metal than black metal.
Yeah, I meant to say genres, not metal, but like genres like black metal, Baroque music, breakcore, and trip hop, just all blending together. Even some like world music elements being applied to this, some folk elements being applied to this. He released an album back in 2017 called Savage Sinusoid. Sinusoid. Is that like a dinosaur that has a huge sinus cavity?
It's a mathematical term.
What does it mean?
Do you know what like a sine curve is and like that type of shit? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I always thought it was like some nose math.
No.
I was really interested, and then you made it boring.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I haven't listened to that album, but apparently it was the starting point for this, and this is more their wider release with some other collaborators on here. Laurel Lay Purinek, I'm gonna say that, on soprano vocals. Lornette Lenore on vocals, and Sylvian Beauvais on drums. The drumming on this album is completely insane. Let's just start off with that. That is one of the most distinctive elements on here, and it is the most crazy hybrid of like breakcore and metal, and it just sonically is just fever-inducing.
It's
in a sense,
full-blown drum assault on your eardrums, and it's amazing.
It doesn't really. And the strange thing about it is that like it never really takes up a huge amount of the mix. It feels like it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like everything feels welcoming around.
It doesn't go lightning bolt with the drumming, where it's overtaking every other element, where that's all you can focus on.
Yeah, so this new album, Spirituality in Distortion's 14 tracks, about 50 minutes of material, and it is sonically pushing genres and blending them together into ways that seem gimmicky at first, but then they sonically progress into something grander than their parts, the individual parts.
Yeah.
So while these things seem like they shouldn't go together, they sonically are curated in a way that blends so effortlessly that at the end, it doesn't matter whether accordion should be in a metal track or not. You just welcome it. Like that's just that at that point, it's just expected. I want accordion in all my metal now. If there isn't at least one accordionist in every metal album from here on to the end of time, I'm going to be very disappointed.
If Ghost doesn't immediately just go out and find an accordionist, that band should just
that just seems right up their niche anyway. Like that just seems Black Sabbath as an accordion, and it's Ozzy Osbourne. He folds himself up and then he sings.
Unfortunately, Black Sabbath can't right their ultimate wrong of never having an accordion because they're officially done making music.
Never say never.
That was an album title.
There's also a Justin Bieber song.
Yeah.
The more important end.
Sure.
So yeah, this thing is constantly insane and on the wall in the sense of that it's like these combinations should in no possible sense ever work, but they're given total care that they are blended together with supreme effortlessness, and they just work out. And this gives like the album a weird blend of not only elements throughout, so it constantly is varying and progressing into different textures, but everything feels full force, like everything feels fleshed out. Like when you bring in a new element, it serves a purpose into the grander scheme, and it builds up the track and progresses into a further nature. And then like also in the sense it's like a lot of these elements bring in different tonal shifts to the track, so they'll either hype them up or cool them down in different sense, and like you get variations of the tempo and the environment throughout here, so everything seems flowing and constant, and like it could change. It's very gelatinous in shape.
Yeah, and it's crazy because there's so many insane elements going into this album. Like you already mentioned, there's just random fucking, not random, but there's just accordion thrown into this mix. And normally when an album is like set up in this way where these things are like flowing and changing as often, sometimes the elements feel jarring and out of place. But everything here just works. Like when the accordion showed up for the first time, even though like it was the first time I heard it, it still felt like it made sense. Everything feels like it belongs where it's at. And for an album to be this noisy, this chaotic, this seemingly insane, the fact that everything still feels very much planned out and belonging is incredible.
Yeah, we're referencing the track Musette Maximum, which has this accordion, constant striking drums, twingy guitar. I don't know what more you would want. It's just such a livid and verbose collaboration of elements that it just seemingly blends together into this weird mix of Ratatouille soundtrack meets prototypical metal album, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's some also really interesting collaborations, like on Very Noise, you get this amplified madness, this complete nonsense of a track with almost like a train going off the tracks. Like everything's just kind of falling off the edge. You have rapid fire guitar and drums. These two elements simultaneously are doing their own thing. They're in these two separate universes, but somehow they are able to mash up perfectly on top of one another and frantically match with the insanity of the other element, blending together. Like while these things are in the same genre, they still frantically feel like two separate worlds being blended together. Nervous Waltz is a mix of classical with metal, and it works beautifully and doesn't really come off as a gimmick. It has a completely hypnotic drum breakdown. It has world-bending combination of vocals and a background of drums as a transition. It has beautiful violins that ring in the apocalypse at the end of the track with this glitchy mix of guitars and strings. It's just insane.
Yeah, the classical elements
pushing it to the edge.
When previously I had told Vincent and he failed to do this, but I told him to look up some older, more extreme forms of like the gothic metal genre, because there's clearly a lot of influence from that genre on this, with the mix of like the Baroque elements and the classical elements, and the violins offend this very heavy metal soundscape. That's a combination that's been around for a couple decades now because of the gothic metal genre. And while that genre is really fucking gimmicky, as most gothic genres are, this takes all those elements in a way that kind of removes the gimmick, despite the fact that this album would seem to be even more of a gimmick than those. Everything here fits a lot better than I think I've ever heard it from the gothic metal genre, like all of the classical elements.
Hollow Tree has harpsichord blended perfectly with some gnarly guitars. It has these breakneck drums, classy vocals, completely epic. The vocals on here are very operatic, insane. At the end, you get this strange duet on Kung Fu Chevre with the return of the accordion. Accordion's on this track, but then you get this surreal duet that happens in a nightmarish apocalypse. And at some point, it turns into a funk track. Like it doesn't make any sense.
That track is amazing. That track is probably hands down my favorite track off this album. It mixes so much different stuff just together in an insane way that just is probably the most bizarre and surreal like song that you could have gotten off of this album. Just everything that it's kind of touched upon a little bit just like kind of gets thrown in at these times, and it's just a great little mixture of all their great elements in such a fun and bizarre way. I love fucking that track. It's amazing. Par
Pairing is this surprise mix of chiptune and metal that has a featured vocalist, George Corpse Grinder Fisher, who I think he's not completely terrible. I think he's pretty just normal for this album. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
blend with the elements as well as I would like him to. He doesn't completely demolish the track, because I think the chip tune production is one of the most surprising elements on here, and the synthetic mix of twang that it brings is just completely unreal. And it continues on a couple other moments on this album with these weird glitchy moments, like on Camel Dancefloor. It's an epic mix of Eastern tune guitar, electronica, and rock, and it's this these glitches warp everything. Like, it's like you remove the frame from the picture, and the picture like loses its shape in a sense. It reminds me, that's a bad analogy, but it reminds me of like an episode of Ed, Edd and Eddy, where it's like a bunch of dream sequences.
Oh, they took the lines off the cartoons?
Yeah, they took the line off of Jimmy, and he just like melted into a liquid.
Yeah.
Like, it's just completely removing the shape. Like, when you have these moments, it completely removes all atmosphere from that current moment and just shifts you to another realm for about a second, and then you're back. It's like you're blacking out for a moment and coming back to this weird gelatinous hell. Oh, this album is completely insane. I could talk about this all day, but I think at the end, it is surprising with its operatic vocals, very twangy guitar, sporadic, insane, breakneck drums. Everything just combines on top of each other into this weird dog pile of ideas that works together beautifully into this beautiful mound of creativity. And I can't say any more.
Yeah, this is an album that you told me, basically you showed me like 2 tracks, and we had no idea what the hell to expect when this full album came out. And this 100% blew away any expectation I had going into it. This album was amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, keep in mind all scores if you're telling me this right now. I think this is a big boy, easy cheesy 9 out of 10 on this one.
This is an easy 9.5 for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I hope to hear more from Igorrr in the future. I really enjoyed this collaboration. It's just frantic and fun, and just a lot of creativity sparking out of so many collaborations and ideas being put in the same melting pot.
Yeah.